So we brought the crew in, and they got to examine the artifacts that we have, and I brought in a reenactor, a World War I reenactor, a German reenactor, and they went head to toe with this clothing. So that was our country, that's Soldiers and Sailors' contribution. They were like soaking up so much three-dimensional physical things. I think that's what Soldiers and Sailors is going to imprint on the production, are those objects, the things people saw, the way the gear is worn, the little comments we gave you, or how to carry the rifle, what to do when you're sitting with nothing to do. What are those kind of activities? And I believe I had a talk with your crew, picking lice out of your clothing, and ticks. Those are very typical things to do. So those are the kind of things a historical consultant can add. They can give flavor, the right flavor to the film. I think those are all going to play out and be something for us. World War I is a war of mud, blood, and death. And this European conflict, the difference between it and any war is technologies. So when you get into the technologies of World War I, you have motorized vehicles, and you have, probably most important is machine guns and really well-developed artillery. So with those things, you're going to find this curve of casualties that's really, really high. And that's what World War I is about, you know, when you look at gas, artillery, and machine guns. They were certainly innovators in how to use artillery, in blocking, you know, sighting in the artillery in barrages and squares, and having the terrain mapped out, and walking an artillery barrage forward and then following it up with an attack. Those are pretty typical German innovations. And the machine gun nests, like where they placed their nests, where they covered a field of fire where there virtually is no spot anywhere on the battlefield for advancing troops who are jumping out of trenches and trying to overtake German trenches. They spent a lot of that time developing their trenches. You know, there were forward trenches, and there were trenches that were a little farther back. And the ones farther back had large rooms that were decorated, you know, with furniture made out of, you know, things they could find, or bombed out buildings. They were places where they could rest and get away from the fighting. They improved their trenches with step-ups, so they didn't have to, they could fire above and keep their heads down, but as they travel through the trench, their heads are lower. And the front trenches are going to be a lot more primitive, and they're subject to dirt falling in on them. They were shored up somewhat with, you know, found objects boards and things like that, but those are going to be the ones that are going to, you know, go, Americans call it going over the top. Those are the ones that are going to, the fighting is going to take place from. So you have these, in essence, two different places to live and fight. I think you want to have the best product you can, so it has to be believable. I mean, you can have the great actors, but they need to have that that little filler, even if it's a little detail that makes them very believable. And, you know, I can't wait to see what you guys have done with the advice that I've given you, or some of the people I've brought in for you to get background information for.